Hey everybody, welcome back. Happy New Year. My name is Patrick Tan, General Counsel for ChainArgonauts. We are the blockchain intelligence firm that was made famous for uncovering Binance's BUSD under collateralization by 1.4 billion US dollars. With me, as usual, every week is my CEO, Jonathan Reiter. He's also our chief data scientist. Welcome back to the show. Thank you. We took a break for the New Year and the Christmas holidays. We're glad to be back. Thank you for all your comments, likes, subscribes, and all the questions that you guys have been sharing with us. So to kick off this new year, and this is in line with a whole bunch of investigations that we're doing concurrently behind the scenes. We've had a lot of questions about Tether, blacklisting, and that kind of thing. So we're going to talk about Tether blacklisting today. We're going to talk about Tether's terms of service. Have you read that? You should, probably, because it's pretty interesting. And then finally, we're going to talk about permission versus permissionless systems and how that fits in with the whole Tether thing and why it presents a whole unique set of problems for users of this product. And like it or not, and we've had debates about this internally at least, as to whether or not the terms of service apply. But I'm getting into the weeds, so let's just jump straight into it. Let's talk about Tether blacklisting, and we've had questions as to what recourse do you have, Tether blacklists your wallet and you feel like you've been wrongly blacklisted, so to speak. Take us away.
Well, okay, yeah. So we've had questions, I guess, in two major directions. People who want to understand what the user experience of being blacklisted, somewhat out of the blue is like. It's not that we've been blacklisted, but we've somewhat publicly said that we've spoken to several people who've experienced this, so we have some kind of information there. And questions about like, well, why was that wallet blacklisted but not that one? Or how were these wallets blacklisted? That kind of stuff. So we of course cannot categorically really answer any of these questions, but we can provide some data, some context around what's going on. We can help people at least understand anecdotes, even if we clearly don't work at Tether and don't know the official policies, or even if there are written down clear official policies. There are real questions about how that works. We'll get into some details here. So I guess the experience that we've seen here is that when Tether blacklists your wallet, you find out because you can no longer transfer tokens, right? Your wallet appears on Tether's blacklist. So we spit out this information. Our system, whatever tracks the stuff, contains it. I'm sure there are some other people in the world who have such information.
Well, maybe just for some of the listeners who are not familiar with the idea, what does it really mean when Tether blacklists your wallet?
Okay,
what does that mean? Yeah.
There are facilities in the ERC20 standard, so the most common types of user-created tokens that exist on Ethereum-like blockchains, that allow for the function call to transfer tokens from wallet A to wallet B can include a check with the issuer or whatever, somebody else, if that transfer is permitted. So you can block recipients, you can block senders, you can block the person asking to initiate the transfer. All of those things can be blocked, and that is explicitly anticipated in the ERC20 standard. It's also implemented by other tokens that aren't quite ERC20 but are similar, whatever. Other blockchains generally provide these types of facilities. In general, for tokens, the only kind of token you should assume isn't freezable are the native tokens of a chain. So ETH on Ethereum, Bitcoin on Bitcoin, whatever, Avalanche on Avalanche. Although I will note that while ETH on Ethereum cannot be frozen, you could build versions of wrapped ETH that are freezable. In fact, there are versions of wrapped ETH that are freezable. There's versions of all kinds of stuff that are freezable.
Okay, so TLDR, if Tether blacklists my wallet, for instance, it means that I can't actually transfer tokens out.
Yeah, so it means that function calls that request to send tokens from that wallet to somewhere else will fail, or they will return an error saying you're
Can anybody send tokens to my wallet?
Generally, yes. You could prevent that through code in different ways, but that's not the way this works now. Yeah.
So let's say now, for all intents and purposes, if Tether were to blacklist my wallet, people can send in, but it's the equivalent of sending it to a burn wallet because it can't come out.
Right? Sort of. And again, we talked about this a while ago. There was an incident where Wintermute had some tokens stolen. They were Paxos, stablecoins, but similar, and they could freeze them, and then they simply burned those tokens. Tether has the same facility and reminted them to a different address, so people could send them in. If there's a genuine mistake, they can move them around, fix them. So they're not, as you'll get through in the terms of service in a minute. These things are really they're not entirely under your control. They're in some sense not at all under your control. You're operating under the at the whims of the issuer. That is the way a lot of systems work. This is not really a permissionless system. It's just kind of a strange way of organizing it. So, okay, when you find out that your tokens were frozen, whether that's because someone emails you, you subscribe to our service, you subscribe to a different service, you tried to transfer them and got an error message back, whatever. Well, so now it appears that if you contact Tether and say, I'm the whatever owner, controller, person with wallet XYZ, they will send you back at least a pointer to where that came from. So in the case that we tweeted about, it was India. There are other cases where Tether have been frozen in the U.S. So, and we've heard this from a couple of different directions. In the U.S., the government at least makes an attempt to communicate with the owner, controller, whatever, with the wallet that's being frozen and saying, here are the steps that you follow if you think this is wrong or, dispute this, appeal this, whatever. The U.S. has something like that kind of a procedure. It's clearly not mandatory for the police, investigators, whatever, to do that. I don't even think it's fair to say we have enough data to suggest it's done consistently or uniformly, but it's done more than never, at least sometimes. Those are not very firm statements. In other countries, people have different stories of how that works. I'm sure there are stories in the U.S. of not knowing who to contact. That's, there's lots of different law enforcement agencies in many countries, and it's complicated. So that's challenging. And we do not know of any cases where somebody asserted a mistake was made and they've gotten to the end of the process, a mistake was acknowledged, the wallet was unfrozen. I don't know that hasn't happened. It would be fantastic if somebody had such a story, because I'm sure there's a lot of interesting detail and information in there. But we do know that Tether unblacklists wallets.
Yes.
Not all the time, but also somewhat often-ish, whatever that happens. So there are procedures that result in that happening. We don't know how, why, or what exactly is going on there. Fine. Whether those are mistakes or the seized funds were seized and then they unfroze it or whatever because it's an exchange. Who knows?
So just to put things in perspective. So let's say, for instance, somehow your wallet address, maybe you put your wallet address out there for an airdrop or something like that, and somebody decides to dox your wallet, something like along those lines, and they took your wallet address, made a complaint. So there is an ongoing scam in India where they use law enforcement to actually blacklist these wallets, make a appeal to Tether, your stuff gets frozen, and it gets bogged down in the legal system. They ask for like equivalent of a ransom, something along those lines. The details are on the Twitter feed. And so naturally, victims of this thing, like law enforcement agencies, they want all the details before they address your concern, because there's so many scams going on. They can't tell if you saying that my Tether got frozen is part of that scam. So they ask for things that no reasonable person would have access to, certain things like records, IP addresses.
Well, maybe not. The police are entitled to ask for whatever
Yeah,
information.
correct. I'm not saying that the requests are
these
unreasonable.
are hard problems. Right?
These are hard problems, but I don't, I don't blame the law enforcement for asking those questions or requiring those documents as part of their process. But again, it makes it very challenging, especially if you're not from that jurisdiction. So like, let's say your wallet somehow gets embroiled in something that has nothing to do with you in a foreign country. That's going to be tricky for you, because if you've ever been a tourist overseas, if you get your wallet stolen and stuff like that, especially if it's in an emerging market where law enforcement is not as...
Or just somewhere you don't speak the language, right?
It can be, And the police department may not want to address your concern. They may just want you to go away. So, and they may not respond to you. And that's some of the things that we've seen, at least.
Or you have a flight to catch in 36 hours and this is a waste of everybody's time. Can you please just leave?
Yeah.
Which is fair enough, right?
So anecdotally, we've seen that a lot of people who've had their wallets frozen have been victims of these things. And it's tough. So which segues into Tether's terms of service. So we've discussed this internally quite a bit as to, okay, who does Tether's terms of service apply to? Technically, most people, I would say most users of Tether don't have a direct relationship with Tether. I think the vast majority of
99.999%.
Exactly.
Tether has very few onboarded customers.
Correct.
They're clear about that. So
the direct counterparties for Tether is like tiny.
Yeah.
So who does the terms of service technically apply to? So depending on how you look at Tether, is it a product? Is it a derivative? And then you're the derivatives trader. So I asked you this. I said, typically in the derivatives contract, who do the terms apply to? Do they apply only to the counterparties, or do they follow on when they get...
Yeah, okay, so if you think of Tether, and this is not a legal argument, this is a conceptual way of approaching it. If you think of Tether as a security representing a dollar with a fund with a dollar in it, so it's something like a money market fund type security. We're not suggesting it's a security or not, just think about it that way.
Yes, think about it.
So derivatives, generally speaking, are not novatable, transferable among counterparties without everybody's consent and signing documents and assigning things. So there is no way of transferring it like that. What you would be talking about here is securities trading. So it would move from place to place, and the regime that exists around securities disclosures is the thing that provides the terms of service, such as it were, the prospectus and whatnot are the equivalent there. So if you think of Tether as that type of a derivative fund, whatever structured product, then the documentation surrounding how Tether operates would move from holder to holder, as opposed to people that have signed a contract with Tether. This is actually often the weird crypto argument that tokens can't be securities because you didn't sign a contract. But of course, when you buy stock, you didn't sign a contract. The whole point of the framework is that the documents associated with the issuance of this security move from holder to holder, right? So in that analogy, I'm not suggesting it is a security, whatever, but that framework would say that the terms of service apply moving from place to place. Think of it like a prospectus. So the company owes on honest reporting of its financials to whoever happens to hold the stock at the time, not somebody that signed a contract with them, because that's how that regime works. You would expect, however these things are treated eventually under the law in whatever country, something like that would be what comes in, right? So you would expect as a user of the product, even if you've never communicated with anybody at Tether, that the terms of service are the thing you should be working off of.
So let's just zoom out for that for a while. If you don't think of Tether as a derivative or security, whatever, we're not saying it is. But if you looked at it as like just a product, and the product has warranties, like if you buy a car that's secondhand, the manufacturer makes certain warranties, certain representations with respect to the vehicle. It doesn't matter that you didn't buy the vehicle directly from the manufacturer. It makes no difference.
And the owner's manual applies
That's
no
right.
matter whether the warranty carries over or not. The documentation still is how the VCR works, right?
And that's an important thing to pay attention to. So regardless of your impression of like the binding nature, the legally binding nature of the terms of service, if you look at the terms of service as like more of an operating manual as opposed to like a legally binding document, this is an important clause that I think you should pay attention to. So for those of you who may not be aware, Tether amended its terms of service on 7th of December last year. It's about a month ago. So
and they amend their terms of service routinely.
Routinely, correct. So the paragraph that you should really pay attention to is paragraph 9, the second part of paragraph 9, which reads, Tether reserves the right to refuse registration to bar transactions from, or to suspend or terminate the administration of services, digital tokens, addresses, digital tokens, wallets for or with any user for any reason or for no reason, in parentheses, at any time, including but not limited to blah, blah, blah. Essentially, all your tokens belong to us at any point in time. We don't have to tell you why.
Yeah.
It's in the terms of service.
Which, to be fair, is the way most of normal finance works, because if the police freeze your account because they suspect you of committing a crime, in many cases, the bank's not allowed to tell you that's why they froze your account.
Correct.
So this is consistent exactly with the way most of traditional finance works.
So we're not saying, I mean, it's important to make it clear that we're not saying that this is so egregious, such a horrendous clause, but this is quite consistent with with one caveat. Usually when the bank has this, the bank has a terms of service, and the bank has a regulator. And the bank, there's a branch you could go to. There's a procedure.
Yeah, you have a way of communicating with the operator and people that oversee them, the regulator, the police, or whatever. You can sue them. There's a communication channel that may function to differing degrees, but like it exists.
It exists. There is a means for redress.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that exists in this case. I'm not saying that doesn't. I just don't know what it is.
It's not clear who you would even dispute this with.
Who's this concept in law called forums non-convenience? It basically means that where is the proper forum if you were to bring a case?
Right.
Like if you look carefully at the terms of service, right? The terms of service actually specifically say the only place you can bring a lawsuit is the BVI. It specifically says you can only bring a suit in the BVI, and you also waive your right to a jury trial, as far as is possible.
Okay. I mean, I'm not an expert in British Virgin Islands law, whatever,
Neither am I.
English law, but you'd imagine if the terms of service say that they can freeze your stum for any reason or for no reason, that this suit ain't going to last very long. You have to convince them to change their mind. There probably is no way to force them to change their mind. Okay, which is different maybe than other types of service. You have less redress here than you do if you have a dispute with Citibank.
And so some of the other provisions, which is quite typical for these things, is that as a user, whether you're you have a primary contract with Tether, or if you are a secondary user, which is the 99.9% of the people, just your use of it, you are taken to have accepted these terms of service. Because that's quite a standard clause.
Well, it's the product manual. It's like disputing the way a used CD player works. It still works that way. Your opinion is not relevant here.
Exactly. I don't think a lot of people appreciate that. Right. And I don't think a lot of people appreciate the fact that, look, if you just happen to come into contact with some of these bad wallet addresses, whether through your fault or no fault of your own, and the quantum doesn't really matter, is one of the things that we've seen.
That's the next thing to talk about. So we've seen situations where there's a wallet that's frozen, and it received all of its tokens from one wallet, which received all of its tokens from one wallet. There's a simple flow of funds, and only some of the wallets in that chain are blacklisted. Okay. I mean, if you have, 100 Tether in a wallet, and all of them came from one other wallet, you'd either freeze both of them or neither of them, you'd think.
Yeah,
right?
you'd think.
We've seen situations where the balances in frozen wallets, and it's not that all the money was taken out, it's that they never processed meaningful amounts of money.
Yeah.
And then, all the way up to, 6-8 weeks ago, hundreds of millions of dollars were frozen. Right? So it's very unclear exactly how this works. Clearly, size is not a key criteria for deciding what to do here.
Well, I mean,
because they're freezing small stuff.
To quote a famous quote, your size is not size. But okay, so, and this segues...
I mean, it's genuinely confusing, and because they have discretion to do whatever they want, it's allowed to be confusing. They don't owe you an explanation.
They definitely don't.
It would be nice to have a better idea what's going on. I kind of feel sorry for whoever within Tether is operating this stuff, because getting what must feel like random requests from dozens of different law enforcement organizations all the time cannot be a pleasant or easy thing to... I mean, no one wants to tell some random police officer, I don't understand what you're asking for, sorry, I can't help you. That's not a good situation to be in. But, what do you... I don't... This is very difficult. Well,
I mean, think about from the perspective of Tether, which is that, if you get... I mean, given how much heat that you're already facing, if you do get a request from anything that appears to be a legitimate law enforcement agency to say freeze these wallet addresses, the instinct should be to freeze it first, ask the questions later, because you can always unfreeze it later. But if you don't freeze it right now, and the guy spirits off the money, you'll have some problems, possibly.
Yeah, because you don't even know where the request is really coming. Yeah, these are hard problems. These are hard problems.
I don't envy them. So that segues into our final topic, which is this whole point: permissioned versus permissionless.
So there was a tweet from Paul Grewal, Coinbase's
General Counsel.
General Counsel.
That's right.
Chief Legal Officer, General
He's
Counsel.
He's the Coinbase version of me.
Okay, that's interesting. Anyway, something to the effect of, are there panics around Eurodollars, because there seem to be regulatory panics around stablecoins that he feels are unjustified all the time. And I guess it's just interesting to note, again, as we were just discussing, and this has come up in some academic work I've done, permissioned versus permissionless systems really do have different characteristics. So Eurodollars, which have been a source of concern for lots of people for a very long time, are a permissioned system in that dollars flow through banks. I mean, they're all electronic credits in banks now, and have been for decades, maybe longer even. Everybody has to have some kind of a banking license, payment provider, trust company, licensing regimes. Now, it's not all within the United States, the extent to which the U.S., for U.S. dollar, whatever, have had concerns around Eurodollars. It's because the regulatory regimes are non-American regulatory regimes. They're French, German. This was a Western Europe thing when Eurodollars started in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and then it spread further around the world. Dealing with different regulatory regimes is hard, right? The U.S. can't just accept that banks in every other country are run well. No country just accepts that banks in every other part of the world are run well. But they also live in the real world and accept that international relations is a thing, and you have to ask countries to help you, and people's rules are different, and whatever. This is sort of politics, and it's hard. International relations has been known hard since ancient times, when it was still difficult. The reason that stablecoins are so concerning is that they are permissionless, right? Permissionless stablecoins, and we're going to Tether obviously has some ability to control things, as we just talked about, but the transfer among people in general is permissionless. Tether is not running a whitelisted system.
And let's not forget, there's still this concept of wrapping.
Yeah. So and you stick them into Maker, whatever, and what you get out really doesn't have any of these freezing facilities. So think of these things as permissionless, whatever, transfers. So at least in the case of banking system stuff, you have recourse to your local bank, your local police, your local court system, and then it funnels up, and then there's international communication. Extradition is difficult. Getting bank accounts seized and proceeds remitted back across borders is hard, but structures exist. I mean, Interpol coordinates this kind of stuff. That's the stuff that does this well, quickly, slowly, whatever, but they're hard problems. Tether's, because it's permissionless, you now have people in all different parts of the world, using things with no real clear recourse, there's an operating manual for the token. There's no operating manual as a user for how to use this thing beyond hope for the best. That structure doesn't exist, and that is concerning. Right? I mean, if you look at some of the Southeast Asian economies where it's fairly well known, there's a lot of this stuff circulating. Vietnam, Cambodia, there's lots of talk in Thailand, whatever, people use stuff like this. I can see how it would be a source of concern to the local authorities that some of the economy was using transferable tokens that could just be seized at the whim of some random company in the British Virgin Islands that they have no real oversight, control. That's not going to go well. I mean, the India example that we tweeted about, the Indian police received some kind of request. They can't be thrilled to have to email some random company in the British Virgin Islands and say, please freeze this money. Whatever's really going on there. That's just not a great process for anybody, and that is different than traditional banking. The concern is legitimate because there is a structure, and we can improve international relations and politics around the world, whatever, but there is a structure around that exists that people work within. What is the wheels of justice grind slowly, but they grind fine. No one expects the legal system to be super fast. Here, you don't have a system. There's no way to get started, so you're never going to get finished.
And this is a problem because I don't know wherever you are tuning into us from, where we happen to be situated, Southeast Asia. It is not uncommon to pay or to receive payment in Tether for like a variety of services, because like a dollar bank account is not readily available in many of the countries surrounding this place.
The income level at which a dollar bank account is available in most of this part of the world is something like generic Western middle class, which is on the higher end of the income distribution, in Vietnam, right? Vietnam's average income is much lower than it is in Western Europe. But people who have Western Europe, whatever style incomes, have easy access to that.
Correct.
Stuff. But lots of people that have much less money don't really have access. That's
and
true.
So they do receive Tether for like gig economy type work. Maybe they do freelance work, marketing, Telegram community management, and any number of things, and these are tiny sums, and because they receive such like dust from a ton of places, it is conceivable that they might receive dust that is tainted because it has come into contact with some illicit transactions or resources and stuff like that, and they don't really have any recourse.
Or that there was a scam adjacent to them. We've seen many situations where it's not entirely clear who's the scammer or who's lying or whatever it is, but this big nest of stuff right here, some bad stuff happened in that area, and the idea that a request to freeze covered a bunch of things in that region and maybe includes stuff by accident. If you have a couple $100s in Tether in a wallet that gets frozen and you're getting paid $50 a job for whatever, you have no way to fix this, right? No one's going to be able to help you. The local police aren't going to be super excited about having a communication with a foreign company over your $150. Like that's just not going to go anywhere, right? Whereas if it was your local bank, they would kind of have to answer you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's better or worse, but these are different things, and the nature of the problem is fundamentally different because of the permissionless nature of the transfers. That's the thing here.
And on that optimistic note, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We're going to try to convert this thing to a podcast in 2024. Fingers crossed, you might be listening to us from a podcast.
I assume no one's actually watching us on screen.
I hope not.
Listening in the background anyway.
So keep those comments coming in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. We've got much more material, much more episodes coming up. Got some exciting reports that are going to come out in the next couple of days and weeks. Look out for that. Follow us on Twitter if you want to get the latest news from the company. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.